Hi, I'm Dr. Marty Rosen with my wife, Dr. Nancy Watson, and today we have the esteemed honor of talking to Dr. Bobby Doscher. Dr. Bobby Doscher runs Oaklahaven Children's Center, for those of you who don't know about it, and she has been spending the last 60 plus years performing miracles over there.
Not 60.
No,
Not 60?
No, it was started by 12 chiropractors.
right.
Oh, so how long have you been there, Bobby?
I've been there 40 some.
You've been
Okay.
40 something. Okay, so it's
All right.
been there for 60 years, right? Oaklahaven's been there for 60 years. Bobby has been doing it for 40 plus years, but she has also been chosen as one of the 12 great women in the history of chiropractic. She is the Woman Chiropractor Year for the centennial year. I've met Bobby numerous times over the years, always impressed by not only her vision, but her fortitude and her commitment to chiropractic. And we are honored to have her speak to us today. And with that, we're going to lead off. And Bobby, tell us a little bit about yourself and share some of your background with us so people know who you are and what you've done.
Sure. Well, first, I want to thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to talk to the profession, especially the students, because they've chosen their life to serve.
Mhm.
I was a child born with severe pigeon-toed and wore braces the first year of life. But they corrected my feet, and I'm fully convinced it all goes with the atlas these days.
Okay.
And I was a great athlete, but I was always sickly. I had to laugh. In my yearbook from high school, the head person who took care of where you signed in and out said to the child who never came a full week of school, I couldn't believe it. So then I became a United States women's official in field hockey, lacrosse, and basketball, and I needed knee surgery. And at that point, I was a stewardess, an international stewardess. I took the troops in and out of Vietnam and been around the world both ways. And so I was a whole summer in a cast. And then after I came out of the cast, another few years went by and I ended up with an exploratory operation to be my father played golf with the surgeon and he said her gut was just all full of pills. No wonder she was in pain. So then I needed a second knee surgery and I said, I'm not going to do it. It doesn't make sense. And someone said, well, why don't you try chiropractic? And it was like my mother said, oh, I can't even say that word. So I went to Mace Thompson. He was one of the chiropractors for the Philadelphia Eagles back then. Went to Palmer. I went to visit him. He adjusted my knee. He adjusted my neck. And I'm better at my old age now than I was in my 20s. I'm healthy. And when I went off to chiropractic school, I was determined to see if it really worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was
Sure.
funny. My mother kept saying, oh, do I have to pay your insurance for Blue Cross Blue Shield? I said, no, I want to see if this really works. And the first day at school, there were some kittens in the backyard of where I found a place to live. And one of the kittens, the hind legs just dragged. So the upperclassmates adjusted the kitten and he ran off. And I thought, wow, this is really impressive. Mm-hmm. And no one ever knew which kitten was even paralyzed at that point. So I continued through school and Oklahoma needed chiropractors. So I came in with a busload. And in those days, there were only 10% women.
Right, small now.
I remember.
And I had, I went to the upper cervical places a few times and I had met Wayne Clark. Mm-hmm. He was an upper cervical chiropractor from Oklahoma. And in the elevator, he was there with this gentleman, Dr. O.S. Witt. And Dr. Witt was a young boy who fell off a wagon And we always kid it had to have been a horse and wagon. And so, because he was 90 then and it was 40 years ago. So, and an old female chiropractor came in. It's always an old female chiropractor. That's the best, don't you think? And she adjusted him. He got well. And he wanted to leave his building to the Children's Chiropractic Center that was started.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah.
And he said, they said, do you think you could do it? And I said, well, I'm sure I could. But believe me, it's been a hard struggle. It has not always been easy. So that's my beginning in chiropractic. But at Palmer, Dr. Agnes Palmer was my mentor.
Okay.
Agnes was great. Not many people knew that. She had holes in one on the golf course. She had big hands and she could really adjust. She was a sculptor, and she
no, I didn't know that.
The bust that she did, the Kennedy family took for Robert Kennedy.
Okay.
And many people don't know this about Agnes, but when I was at school, she wasn't allowed on the campus at that point. But I was in sorority, which is the oldest chiropractic organization in the world. And so I was with Agnes a lot. And she always had a wonderful sense of humor. That's what I got a kick out of. But not everybody got her humor. Like she took the sorority girls to the dinner one night, and the Mississippi River in Davenport, where Palmer is, it goes east-west. It's the only place in the Mississippi where it flows east-west. And we to say that's where the American Indians sent their children to become wise. And so we were becoming wise. So Agnes had us at the Dock restaurant. And when she came out, her car was parked in the loading zone. And she said to the policeman, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm giving you a ticket because you're in this loading zone." And she said, "Oh, that's right. I'm loading these bags," which were the sorority sisters. "And I'm leaving in a minute." I mean, she always had the play on words, and it was always fun to be with her.
That's awesome.
That's good.
So that was my start in chiropractic.
That's an amazing start. It's so many of us start because of our own issues, our own physical issues that are healed. It's a great way to start the journey.
How old were you when you went to school then? How old were you into chiropractic school?
When I went to chiropractic school, I was maybe 31, 33, around there. I had been a stewardess for 10 years, which was a long time in those days.
Definitely.
So maybe on a personal note, maybe tell us some of the most fulfilling parts of I know you've done, amazing work with children. Maybe talk a little bit about some of that work.
Oh,
maybe
I guess one of my memorable ones was, here I am in Oklahoma and I am a Philadelphian.
Right.
So this big cowboy, I mean, he was a rancher, I should say, came with his granddaughter. And the daughter-in-law had the baby in a carrier, and she had the baby on the floor. And he said, "I've birthed enough cows. Something's wrong with this baby. Now fix them." And I was like, oh. And the mother kept saying, "If you touch the baby, I'll sue you." So it was like, well, what do? You just do what you have to do. You fix the baby. And so that I always thought was funny.
Yeah,
it is pretty funny.
It's a little intimidating for sure. Yeah. So for all these young chiropractors or aspiring chiropractors, is there anything that you could offer them on your journey from your experience to help them understand the journey of practice?
Like, how do they excel? What do they need to do, or what do you see as something you need to do? Because you've excelled in the profession. I mean, you're not only are you well known, but you've done amazing work with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids. So what would you say to these young chiropractors that is that bottom line thing that they really need to do to excel in the profession?
Well, number one, you have to believe that the power that made the body is going to heal the body.
Absolutely.
Self-developing, you keep growing. I even get a kick out of the teenagers. I think they grow a foot in front of me. So
Yeah.
the body just has this wonderful self-healing.
Mhm.
I mean, if you cut your finger, you don't get a toe back. It just knows.
Right.
Yeah.
It's self-regulating. You go outside in the cold and the hot. And I do think the vaccines affect that one of the first,
Mhm.
because we all have to wear our coats and jackets. How do you think they came across the United States? I mean, there's something. So the regulating of the body,
Yeah.
and it's just a wonderful mechanism.
Yeah.
Then
Well, listen,
I also believe,
Yep.
So,
excuse me?
So belief in the principle is number one.
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
If you don't have the principle, you
Yep.
have to, as Agnes Palmer used to say to us, before you adjust, just wait until you have to, you can feel it within you, it will come.
Mhm. Okay.
nice.
And you might ask me about light force and force.
Yeah.
I feel we're leaving the Iron Age, going to the crystalline age,
Okay.
and things are done minutely more. It's just a light touch. And the Atlas, I feel that the profession, that's one of the greatest things we have is the upper cervical work.
Mhm.
You've got to get the head right.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And in seeing that, then the body will begin to heal. Also, I have found that it takes at least 3 adjustments a day
Really? Okay.
to find the force come back. So back to my story, we came to Oklahoma, and I ran into this Dr. Carver. Well, it was Willard Carver's grandson, Dr. John Carver.
Mhm.
He gets very annoyed when we talk about peds.
Mhm.
That's the study of disease, he would say.
Okay.
It's chiropractic in children. We have to advertise what we do, not pediatrics.
Okay.
So I met Dr. Carver, and here I came from Palmer and had all that history.
Right.
The Carvers are just as fascinating.
Okay.
And Willard Carver was a withered child,
Mhm.
and he was a lawyer when Palmer discovered chiropractic.
Oh,
So the main thing was he wrote the law.
for chiropractic.
And yes, but it didn't pass through. And the stories are funny. If you can go online and look it up.
Yeah.
But he used to say Carver was a college, Palmer was a school.
Oh, there you go.
And he also wrote the law and got it into the legal part of the country under the judicial. It's not under the medical.
Right.
Why we keep trying to fit into the medical model, I
Doesn't
don't
work.
understand.
I agree. Yeah.
So
So can I go back to something that you said, which intrigued me? So you said it takes 3 adjustments a day to begin with to actually turn on the life force. So
wait a minute. Okay, so Dr. Carver had polio as a child.
Right.
And so did Dr. Ed Lynch, who served on the Children's Chiropractic Center.
Right.
And their fathers adjusted them all night long.
Right.
Okay, what I have found, it takes at least 3 adjustments. It takes about 40 minutes for the body to reset itself.
Okay.
And in so doing, you can see the body begin to change. It's fascinating. There's a center line right down the center of the face. The eyes will begin to move. The eyes will become focused. And also these little fine lines. As you get older, you have more of them.
Yeah.
It's just, you'll see if you're really paying attention, all the little tiny changes that go on.
Mhm.
And
And how, so you see them three times, how often, like for how long? But what is your care plan for some of your children, the people that you see?
the profoundly hurt children, I find, well, it was a good story. This mother came with an autistic child, one of the first I ever saw. And she was from Tulsa, about an hour and a half away, maybe an hour. And the child was just all over all the time. And she was pregnant. And I would have her come in the morning, like 11 something, and then back at 1 after lunch. And then I realized I needed more time. So I'd see her, an hour or so later. And you just slowly watch the changes. So we said to her, she came one day and she said, "I'm sorry, I can't pay today. The IRS has impounded my checkbook." And since she lived in Tulsa, the capital's Oklahoma City. So she came. We said, "Oh, that's not any problem. Go on down and take your daughter with you. And when they tell you to get in line, just turn her loose." So then she said, immediately after she tore up a desk or two, they said, "Can we help you?" And of course they helped the child. So that's where my eyes were open to what Dr. Carver was saying. You definitely need more than one adjustment.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
For sure.
So I guess the other question is, so is over how long a period of time? I mean, you're talking about years ago, but how long a period of time would you be seeing her, like 3 times a day? Like what kind of time frame would
Well, I
that?
mean, that was back in the beginning
Right,
there.
that's right.
And nowadays,
Yeah,
then the children used to come and spend a week or two
Right.
with us.
right.
Okay.
Right now, after COVID and everything, we haven't really gone back to that.
Sure.
Okay.
But it's very important that if they come, you want to treat them 3 or 4 times a week.
Right.
Yes.
And we used to do it 5 times a week. But I found that after 3 days, the body has to really recalculate.
Right.
Itself,
The
yeah,
reboot
balance
itself.
itself,
Yep.
absolutely. It
But
needs,
you can't do it just one adjustment.
Of course not.
Oh, God, no.
Not with some of these kids, for sure.
no, nobody, yeah, one adjustment won't change your pattern, won't change your nervous system. Okay. So you talk about the atlas. You said 2 things, which again I thought was interesting. Besides the atlas, you said you're finding these days that lower force work is becoming more appropriate for these kids, and it's actually high velocity adjustments. Is that true for you? Like the work?
Yes, Dr. Carol Phillips,
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sure.
sure.
we meet once a year in
Awesome.
Minneapolis. And one day I said, "Carol, the heads are always left anterior." And she said, "Well, of course, that's the way they're taught to birth them."
That's right.
Mm.
That's right. They always come out left.
Mhm.
And then Dr. Ann Spicer took her place at Northwestern, and we would all meet in Minneapolis. And we decided there were micro tears in the cord from the too much stress.
Okay.
So I decided definitely you do not want to put too much force in.
Sure.
Mm.
So I always say, put your 2 fingers together, the positive and the negative,
Mhm.
and just hold the atlas and see where it wants to go.
Mhm.
And then just a light little force is all we need,
Great.
because we're not throwing bales of hay and
Well, you're following what the body is already trying to do. You're just facilitating that motion.
correct.
Right. Awesome.
So, this has
You've
been,
had so many memorable
Yes,
experiences in your career.
Yep.
So what we'd like to do, just to kind of wrap it up, can you kind of tell people a little about Oaklahaven, how they can get in touch with you, donations and things like that? Can you just kind of give them input so they can contact you or contact or help support the work you do?
Sure. We definitely need a new chiropractor.
Ah,
there you
there you
go.
go. Well, I don't know. We're looking for one too. We're looking for an associate too. So we'll see you. It's either Boston or Oklahoma. Either place. You guys decide.
But I don't need somebody to shadow me, I tell them.
Uh-huh.
I
Yep.
don't need a shadow.
Right.
I need somebody who's ready to work
Right.
and
Awesome.
is dedicated to it.
Sure.
I find that the young chiropractors nowadays are either a child that was on medication and didn't like it
Mm-hmm.
and was glad to get rid of it and find another way of life.
Yeah.
And also, they might have had another family member who was a hurt child.
Sure.
And they got most of the attention. So somebody who understands,
Right.
but I hang on to Oaklahaven because it's over 60 years old now.
That's
Right.
right.
I feel the profession needs this story.
Mhm.
When I did the documentary video, I figured, why not show all the great cases?
No,
Yep.
it's great.
Yeah, we're gonna post that
We're gonna
documentary
share,
video.
we're gonna share that video. Yes.
And that can be found on YouTube
Right.
We will share it when we will.
under
Yeah.
Oaklahaven Children's Chiropractic Center.
Okay.
Our website's kind of fun.
Okay.
There's a lot on there.
What is the website, the URL for the website?
Chiropractic, the number 4kids.com.
Awesome.
It was a father did it for me back in the 90s.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
And last year, the head person who took care of the website died. And that was a little interesting. You were like, oh my, nobody even knows where we are now.
But it's up there. You can
It's up
can
there.
find it.
We found.
And we can
I
find
found
and they
it.
can find you through the website, right? You have your email attached to that.
Yes, yes.
All right, great.
Yeah. So we really appreciate all that you've done for
You.
our profession, for women in chiropractic. Your stories are priceless. We're going to be sharing them with our students, and I want to thank you so much for your time, Bobby. And we will see what we can do. I don't know.
Hopefully people connect and see
Yep.
some of these stories and connect with the great work that you have done.
Yes.
And what I've learned, one of the fascinating things is the fundraising. It's been hard.
Yeah,
Sure.
fundraising is
And it's not free. Oaklahaven is not free
right.
Right.
because they have to have some type of responsibility.
Yeah, they have to
Yes.
make some commitment to it.
That's exactly it.
absolutely.
And that's, we
Yeah.
have a fee, and then after a little while, we adjust it to what they can afford because they need to come too much right now.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
I
lot.
agree.
It is a lot.
And the other thing is, I decided that have a heart. And
Yes.
we can send you a tag, a banner or something to add to this. The have a heart, I found that it was much better to have a grassroots effort within the profession.
Yeah.
And then if we give within the profession, it helps.
Absolutely.
Even my own father said, I didn't know the kids were this sick here, you know? And so,
No,
Right.
they need us more than ever now. Chiropractic is more than ever necessary for these kids. There's no
I
place
agree.
else to go.
There's not.
No place else to go. No one else is helping them, on a level that we can help them. So again, we appreciate everything you do. We appreciate your time today, and people will get to hear this and see this, and hopefully they'll connect and help support your mission.